I still remember when Amanda and I first moved into our cozy house in Austin. Back then, we couldn't keep our hands off each other, laughing late into the night, sneaking kisses in every room. The passion was effortless. The connection was real. I thought it would last forever. But forever has a funny way of changing. It started small, almost unnoticeable. She'd come home from work, exhausted, saying she just needed to shower and sleep. I understood. Long hours at her marketing firm left her drained, and my construction job wasn't easy either. I told myself it was temporary. A bad month. Maybe two. But bad months became bad seasons. Her "I'm tired" excuses turned into "I'm stressed." Then, "I'm not feeling well." Then nothing at all. The intimacy faded not with a fight, but with silence. I tried to fix it like any good husband would. Date nights. Weekend getaways. I even surprised her with a weekend at the very bed and breakfast where we'd honeymooned. She smiled and thanked me, but when night came, she turned away, claiming she needed rest. I laid awake staring at the cracked ceiling fan, wondering when my wife had become a stranger. I suggested counseling once. She brushed it off with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "We're fine. Just busy." I bought books on rekindling passion, highlighted sections for us to read together. She left them gathering dust on the nightstand. I even wondered if maybe there was something wrong with me, if I had become unattractive to her. Those thoughts festered, poisoning my confidence little by little. Yet she still kissed me goodbye every morning, told me she loved me before bed. Mechanical. Habitual. Empty. On our 4th anniversary, I booked a fancy dinner downtown. She wore a dress I'd never seen before, looking radiant. For a moment I allowed myself to hope. Maybe tonight would be different. Maybe we could find our way back to each other. After dinner, I leaned in to kiss her, reaching for the woman I missed so much. She smiled sadly and whispered those familiar words. "I'm too tired, baby." That was the moment something broke inside me, clean and sharp like a snapped bone. That night, staring at our bedroom ceiling, I made a decision. If she was too tired for me, I would stop trying to be enough for her. And everything that happened after started with that single, brutal thought. The next morning felt different, like I'd finally stepped off a treadmill I didn't realize I was trapped on. I didn't initiate our usual morning kiss. I didn't ask her about her meetings or if she needed anything from the store. I smiled politely, grabbed my coffee, and left for work. That small shift sent ripples through everything. I stopped trying to fix things. I stopped planning weekend getaways, stopped arranging surprise dinners. I stopped chasing someone who seemed determined to stay just out of reach. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't distant. I simply detached. I focused on my work, poured my energy into side projects I'd neglected for years. I hit the gym more often, shedding the weight of frustration along with a few stubborn pounds. I didn't tell Amanda about the changes. I didn't need to. She noticed. One evening, while washing dishes side by side, she asked, "Are you okay?" I shrugged casually. "Yeah." "Why?" She hesitated, a damp plate slipping slightly in her hands. "You just seem different." I smiled at her without warmth. "Maybe I am." For once, she was the one left wondering, feeling the distance grow and not knowing how to bridge it. I started spending more time with old friends. Poker nights. Fishing trips. Weekend hikes. I informed her of my plans, not asking permission, just giving her the courtesy of knowing. Sometimes she'd ask if I was coming home late. I'd answer simply. No explanations, no apologies. For years, I'd been orbiting Amanda, desperate to stay in her gravitational pull. Now, I was moving on my own axis, and she didn't know how to react. I even picked up new hobbies, photography classes, volunteering at a local shelter. Things that made me feel alive in ways I hadn't felt in years. Every time I caught her watching me from across the room, I saw the flicker of something unfamiliar in her eyes, uncertainty. Maybe even regret. But I didn't push. I didn't question. I let her sit with it. Because for once, the silence wasn't mine to fill. It was hers. And that was only the beginning of the shift neither of us could stop. Change was coming. Whether Amanda wanted it or not. 3 months into my silent rebellion, Amanda grew restless. Small gestures started appearing like cracks in the walls she had built. She'd leave my favorite coffee by my briefcase in the mornings, send texts during the day asking what I wanted for dinner, brush her hand against mine casually as we passed in the hallway. Each time, I responded with politeness but no deeper engagement. I had learned the hard way not to overvalue breadcrumbs. One Saturday morning, she made pancakes, my favorite. As we ate, she said, "You seem happier lately." I met her gaze steadily. "I am." Her fork paused halfway to her mouth. "Is it because of me?" I thought for a second before answering. "It's because I'm focusing on myself." Her mouth opened as if to argue, but no words came. That night, she slid closer to me in bed, her body warm against mine. But I didn't move. I didn't pull her closer. I lay there, breathing steadily, detached but present. She shifted, restless, and eventually turned away, curling into herself. I watched the ceiling, feeling nothing but a cool, strange calm. I was no longer trapped in a cycle of begging for attention, then feeling crushed when it wasn't given. I had broken free. One evening, after a long gym session, I came home to find Amanda waiting on the porch, a bottle of wine and 2 glasses on the table beside her. She looked nervous, twisting her wedding band around her finger. "I thought we could talk," she said. I nodded and sat across from her. She poured the wine, her hands trembling slightly. Are you happy?" she asked. I sipped the wine slowly before answering. "I'm getting there." She flinched like I had struck her. "Is it because you're moving on from us?" I stared at her, weighing my words. "I'm moving on from what we became." Silence stretched between us, thick and heavy. Finally, she whispered, "I miss you." The words felt hollow, like an actor fumbling through forgotten lines. I didn't respond. I simply sat there, letting the discomfort settle over us like a storm cloud. I realized then that Amanda wasn't missing me. She was missing the man who once revolved around her every mood. That man was gone. And he wasn't coming back. 2 weeks later, the inevitable happened. I came home early one evening, needing to grab some papers I had forgotten for work. As I entered the house, I heard her upstairs, her voice soft but urgent. Curious, I moved quietly toward the staircase, pausing when I heard my name. "I don't know what to do," Amanda said, her voice strained. "He's just different. It's like he doesn't even care anymore." A muffled response followed. Probably one of her friends, maybe Lisa, her confidant from college. Amanda continued, "It's my fault. I pushed him away. Now he's living his life without me, and I don't know how to get him back." There was a long pause, and then I heard the words that froze me in place. "I used to feel nothing when he touched me. Now I miss it so much it hurts." I backed away slowly, my heart thudding, not with hope, but with finality. It was too late. Her regret couldn't erase the years of neglect, the countless nights of loneliness. I drove around for an hour after that, not sure where I was going. When I finally pulled into a parking lot near the river, I stared out over the water, feeling a strange sense of peace. Amanda's confession hadn't shocked me. If anything, it confirmed what I already knew. She had taken me for granted until my absence became more painful than my presence ever was. That night I didn't go home. I checked into a hotel instead, a modest place overlooking the river. The clerk didn't ask questions, and I was grateful for the anonymity. Sitting on the bed, staring at the blank TV screen, I made another decision. I would not be the one clinging to the wreckage of a hollow marriage. I would not wait around for someone to realize my value only after they had destroyed it. Amanda had chosen her path long ago. Now it was time for me to choose mine. I opened my laptop and started researching divorce attorneys in Austin. It wasn't a decision made in anger. It was made with the clarity of a man who finally knew his worth. And this time, there would be no turning back. The following morning, I woke up to 3 missed calls and a series of texts from Amanda. "Where are you? Are you okay? Please call me." I stared at the screen, feeling nothing but a quiet detachment. No rage. No sadness. Just resolve. I texted back simply, "I need some space." Then I turned off my phone and went downstairs for breakfast. At the hotel's small cafe, I sat by the window, sipping black coffee and watching the city wake up. For the first time in years, I felt like I was breathing real air, not the stale, recycled version I'd grown used to inside our crumbling marriage. Later that day, I met with a divorce attorney named Mr. Grayson. His office was sleek and professional, overlooking downtown Austin. After explaining my situation in careful, unemotional terms, he nodded thoughtfully. "It's clear you've tried to save your marriage," he said. "But you're also smart to prepare yourself now." He outlined my options: asset division, timelines, steps for a no-contest filing. Everything felt strangely clinical, yet empowering. Leaving his office, I felt lighter. Stronger. I wasn't making a rash decision out of anger or hurt. I was building a future without Amanda. That evening, I sat by the river again, my divorce paperwork sealed in a manila envelope resting on the seat beside me. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in streaks of gold and violet. I thought about the man I had been, the man who begged for crumbs of affection, who waited in silence for someone else to change. That man was gone. And in his place was someone willing to fight for himself. When I finally returned to the house to pack some essentials, Amanda was sitting in the living room, eyes red-rimmed, tissues scattered around her. She stood as I entered, a fragile hope flickering across her face. "We need to talk," she said. I nodded. "We will. But not tonight." I walked past her, up the stairs, and began gathering my things. The sound of her soft sobs drifted up behind me, but I didn't look back. It was no longer my job to soothe her. Not after everything. Not anymore. Over the next few days, Amanda kept reaching out, sending long texts filled with apologies, promises, and desperate attempts to pull me back. She said all the things I used to dream of hearing when I was lying awake beside her, wondering why I wasn't enough. Now, reading her words, they rang hollow. Too little, too late. I stayed in the hotel, quietly moving forward with the divorce process. I'd opened a new bank account, transferred my direct deposits, and started looking for a new apartment. Every step I took away from her felt like shaking off heavy chains I didn't realize I was carrying. Meanwhile, Amanda was unraveling. Friends we used to share told me she looked frazzled, distracted, even desperate at times. She canceled dinner plans, called in sick to work, spent hours driving around town. I knew she was grappling with the reality she never thought would come, that the man she thought would chase her forever had stopped running. One afternoon, she showed up at my hotel. I saw her through the peephole, clutching a bag from my favorite diner. For a moment, I almost opened the door. Almost. But then I remembered all the nights I sat in that same house, feeling like a ghost she barely noticed. I let her knock. I let her call my name. And I let her walk away when no one answered. Later that evening, I found a handwritten note slipped under the door. It read, "I'm sorry for pushing you away. I miss us. Please give me a chance to fix this." I folded the note and placed it inside the envelope with the divorce papers. A reminder that sorrow alone isn't enough to fix years of neglect. Real change takes more than regret. It takes courage, consistency, and self-awareness, all things Amanda had shown no interest in until the threat of losing me became real. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I was simply done being someone's backup plan. I turned off the light, stretched out on the bed, and stared at the ceiling, feeling a rare, deep peace. Tomorrow, I would deliver the papers. Tomorrow, I would set myself free. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. There was no second-guessing, no last-minute hesitation. I got dressed, tucked the divorce papers neatly into my briefcase, and drove to the house one final time. Amanda's car was parked in the driveway. As I pulled in behind it, I took a deep breath, steadying myself for what needed to happen. She opened the door before I even knocked, as if she'd been waiting by it all morning. Her eyes lit up with hope when she saw me standing there, holding nothing but that slim, ominous envelope. "Can we talk?" she asked, voice trembling. I nodded once and stepped inside. The house smelled like fresh coffee and lemon cleaner, a desperate attempt to recreate the warmth we had lost. We sat in the living room across from each other, the same room where we had once planned our future, oblivious to the cracks forming beneath our feet. Without a word, I placed the envelope on the coffee table between us. Amanda stared at it like it might explode. "You're serious?" she whispered, her fingers trembling as they hovered above the unopened flap. "I am." She shook her head, tears filling her eyes. "But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. I'll change. I held up my hand. "You don't get to want to fix it now that you're losing it." She crumpled inward like a paper doll, folding in on herself. "I didn't know what I had until it was gone," she choked out. For the first time, I didn't feel the urge to comfort her. I didn't feel the need to make it easier. I simply stood, retrieving my car keys from my pocket. "I hope you find what you're looking for," I said quietly. Amanda reached out, grabbing the envelope, her knuckles white. "I was looking for you. I just didn't realize it." I gave her a sad smile. "I know. And I waited for a long time. But I'm not lost anymore." I turned and walked away, not glancing back even once. The door closed behind me with a finality that echoed through my chest, not as pain, but as freedom. As I drove away, a strange lightness filled my chest, like I had been carrying 100-pound weight for years and finally set it down. The city looked different, brighter, sharper, like a veil had been lifted from my eyes. I didn't go back to the hotel. Instead, I drove straight to a small apartment I had rented downtown. It wasn't much, just a one-bedroom overlooking the river, but it was mine. No memories clinging to the walls, no echoes of broken promises haunting the halls. Just a fresh start. I spent the afternoon unpacking the essentials, a few clothes, my laptop, a battered coffee maker. As I placed a framed photo of myself and my dog from years ago on the nightstand, I realized how little of my old life I had actually brought with me. It felt right. Amanda sent a few more texts over the next week, mostly short and heavy with regret. I didn't respond. Not out of cruelty, but because I had nothing left to say. She had spent years teaching me that love without respect is a slow death. I had finally learned the lesson. Some nights, I thought about the way things could have been if we had been braver sooner. If she had trusted me with her fears instead of hiding behind walls. If I had demanded better instead of waiting silently for change. But regret was a useless weight. I had carried enough of those already. Instead, I focused on rebuilding. I signed up for new classes. I met up with friends I had neglected. I started running in the mornings along the river trails, the crisp air filling my lungs, clearing the cobwebs from my mind. Slowly, a new version of myself began to take shape, someone stronger, someone who didn't beg to be loved, someone who knew his own worth. One evening, after a long run, I stood on the pedestrian bridge overlooking the city skyline, watching the sunset smear the sky with molten gold. A deep, quiet pride filled my chest. I had survived losing someone who didn't know how to keep me. And even more importantly, I had found someone far more valuable, myself. About a month after moving into my new place, Amanda requested a meeting through her lawyer. At first, I hesitated. What was there left to say? But my attorney advised that it might help finalize the paperwork quicker if we met face to face. So, on a gray Tuesday afternoon, I found myself sitting across from her in a sterile conference room, the divorce documents spread neatly between us. Amanda looked different. Smaller somehow. Her once pristine appearance now a little frayed around the edges. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hands fidgeting with the hem of her sweater. She tried to meet my gaze, but I kept mine steady and unreadable. "I don't want to fight," she said softly. "I don't want this to get ugly." "Neither do I," I replied. My voice was calm, detached. She swallowed hard. You were a good husband. Better than I deserved. Her words might have broken me once. Now they barely stirred the air between us. We both made mistakes, I said, keeping it neutral. No blame. No reopening wounds. Just facts. But it's too late to patch this up. Amanda nodded slowly, tears welling in her eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered. For everything. For taking you for granted. For pushing you away. I nodded, accepting her apology but not offering any false hope. I hope you find peace, Amanda. And happiness, too. She pressed her lips together to keep from crying and signed the final page with a trembling hand. I signed next, my signature bold and certain. It was done. After everything, the nights of silent rejection, the years of loneliness, the crushing self-doubt, I walked away not as a broken man, but as someone who had survived and evolved. We left the conference room in silence. No hugs. No lingering goodbyes. Just two people who once loved each other and had failed each other in the quietest, saddest ways possible. As I stepped into the cool air outside, a weight lifted from my shoulders. I was free, not just from Amanda, but from the version of myself who thought love meant enduring silent suffering. I smiled to myself as I walked away, the city stretching out in front of me like a brand new map, waiting to be explored. Life after the divorce didn't unfold in a dramatic blaze of triumph or sorrow. It was quieter than that. Healing came slowly, in small moments that stacked up like bricks rebuilding a foundation. I spent more weekends fishing at the lake, more evenings grilling on the balcony of my new apartment, more mornings waking up with a sense of calm instead of a knot of tension in my gut. Friends who had been distant during the chaos reappeared, cautiously at first, then warmly once they realized I wasn't wallowing or bitter. Some weekends were still hard. I'd walk past a couple holding hands, laughing in that easy way that used to be familiar, and a pang would hit me sharp and sudden. But it passed. It always passed. Time did its work, steady and relentless. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I got a text from Amanda. Just one line. I still miss you. I stared at it for a long minute before deleting it without replying. Some doors stay closed for a reason. Around that time, I met someone new. Not romantically, not yet. Her name was Rachel, a friend of a friend who loved hiking, photography, and had an easy, genuine laugh that didn't feel forced. We bonded over shared interests, simple conversations, and a refreshing absence of hidden agendas. There was no rush, no desperate need to fill the void Amanda had left. I was comfortable being alone, and that made every connection richer, not a lifeline to cling to. Rachel reminded me of the person I was rediscovering, strong, curious, alive. One evening, as we sat on a bench overlooking the river, Rachel said, "You seem like someone who's been through hell and came out better for it." I smiled, feeling the truth of it deep in my bones. "Yeah," I said. "I guess I have." The past wasn't something I wanted to erase. It had shaped me, chiseled away the weak parts, exposed the man I was always meant to become. I didn't hate Amanda. I didn't hate what had happened. Without the breaking, there could be no rebuilding. Without the betrayal, there could be no self-respect. Without the ending, there could be no beginning. 6 months after walking away from the life I once thought was permanent, I stood in my living room, a beer in hand, surrounded by new friends laughing and sharing stories. It wasn't a party, not exactly, just a casual evening gathering that would have been unthinkable a year ago when my world revolved around Amanda's moods and silent judgments. I wasn't the lonely man who tiptoed around his own home anymore. I wasn't the guy begging for scraps of attention, hoping that maybe tonight would be different. I was someone else entirely now. Amanda had reached out a few more times after that first message. Hope you're doing well. Here, saw something that reminded me of you. There. I didn't block her. I didn't need to. Her words no longer had power over me. I let them arrive and disappear like leaves blowing past in the wind. A few mutual friends mentioned she had started therapy, that she was trying to find herself. I hoped it was true. Not because I wanted her back, but because everyone deserves a chance to heal from their own mistakes, even if they never get another shot with the people they hurt. One evening, standing on my balcony, the city lights stretching out below me like a sea of stars, I thought about writing her a letter. Not one filled with accusations or regrets, just a quiet thank you. Thank you for teaching me how not to settle. Thank you for showing me that love without respect is a slow poison. Thank you for breaking my heart so thoroughly that I had no choice but to rebuild it stronger than before. But I didn't send a letter. Some things are better left unsaid. Closure wasn't something Amanda could give me. It was something I had to find within myself. And I had. Completely. The bitterness, the anger, the endless what-ifs, they were gone. In their place was a quiet pride. I had survived the loss of someone I once thought I couldn't live without. I had come out the other side not broken, but whole. And the best part was, I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living. Fully, freely, without fear. 1 year to the day after I made the decision to walk away, I found myself sitting alone at my favorite coffee shop, a notebook open in front of me. It wasn't a special occasion. No celebration. Just a quiet moment of reflection that had become my own personal ritual. I sipped my coffee and thought about how much had changed. How much I had changed. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad anymore. Amanda's memory was like a book I had once loved but outgrown, a story that had shaped me but no longer defined me. My phone buzzed with a message from Rachel. Hiking trip next weekend. You in? I smiled and typed back. Wouldn't miss it. Life was simple now, uncomplicated. Not because it was free of challenges, but because I had finally learned the difference between fighting for something meaningful and clinging to something broken out of fear. Later that evening, as I walked along the river, the sun dipped low, casting a golden path across the water. Couples strolled by hand in hand, kids laughed in the distance, a street musician played a soft, aching melody on a battered guitar. And me? I was exactly where I needed to be. Alone, yes. But never lonely. I thought about Amanda, wherever she was, and hoped she had found her own kind of peace. Maybe she had learned what I had, that love without honesty is empty, that staying silent only builds walls too high to climb, that real connection requires courage, not comfort. I would never know for sure. And that was okay. I crossed the bridge slowly, savoring the cool breeze against my face, the easy rhythm of my footsteps. I had survived betrayal. I had survived heartbreak. But more importantly, I had survived losing myself, and fought like hell to find the man I was meant to become. As the last rays of sunlight slipped below the horizon, I slipped my hands into my jacket pockets, exhaled deeply, and smiled. The best part wasn't the freedom, the peace, or even the healing. The best part was knowing that the story I was living now, this beautiful, imperfect, extraordinary story, was finally my own. Sometimes losing someone you love is the only way to find the person you were meant to be. Pain fades. Strength remains. Freedom heals. If this story touched you, subscribe, leave a like, and tell us in the comments, what should our next unforgettable story be?